In 1992, a 29-year-old video store clerk turned his screenplay into one of the most talked about debuts in film history. With just over $1 million, Quentin Tarantino made Reservoir Dogs, a crime thriller that never shows the crime. A jewelry heist goes sideways, and the surviving crew meets at a warehouse to figure out who sold them out. No flashy action, just raw tension, razor-sharp dialogue, and color-coded criminals trying to stay alive. Here are 12 facts about Reservoir Dogs that'll make you see this cult classic in a whole new light. Fact 1. Harvey Keitel saved the film from oblivion. Before Harvey Keitel stepped in, Reservoir Dogs was headed toward a vastly different fate. Tarantino had roughly 30 grand to his name and was preparing to shoot a grainy black and white with his friends, but producer Lawrence Bender believed in the script enough to take a chance. Through his acting coach's ex-wife, the screenplay landed in Keitel's hands. The veteran actor didn't just love what he read, he committed to producing it and starring as Mr. White. That one decision transformed everything. Suddenly, other talented actors wanted in, and the budget jumped to $1.3 million. Without Keitel's belief in an unknown filmmaker, this movie might have ended up as a rough indie experiment instead of a cultural phenomenon. Fact 2. The warehouse was actually a mortuary. When you're working with limited funds, you make do with what you can get. Most of Reservoir Dogs unfolds inside a seemingly ordinary warehouse, but that space had a much darker past. The building was a disused mortuary in Los Angeles, complete with embalming equipment, funeral caskets, and even a hearse sitting in the corner. If you look closely during the scene where Mr. White and Mr. Pink argue in the back room, you can spot some of the leftover funeral gear. Even the crate Mr. Blonde sits on during the torture scene was originally used to transport coffins. Whether Tarantino kept those props for symbolic reasons, after all, most of the crew dies in that very building, or simply because they couldn't afford to move them, it adds an eerie layer to the film's atmosphere. Fact 3. Michael Madsen improvised that unforgettable dance. The torture scene in Reservoir Dogs is seared into movie history, but here's the thing, it was never fully choreographed. The script simply instructed Mr. Blonde to dance around maniacally while tormenting the captured cop. What Michael Madsen did on camera was pure improvisation. He nailed it on the first take, drawing inspiration from old James Cagney films and letting the twisted energy of the moment guide him. The way he moves to "Stuck in the Middle with You," casual, playful, terrifying, turned what could have been just another violent scene into something deeply unsettling. It's the unpredictability that makes it work. And here's the kicker. The entire music budget for the film went to licensing that one song because Tarantino knew it was essential. Fact 4. Actors wore their own clothes to save money. When your budget is tight, creativity becomes survival. Before Harvey Keitel brought serious funding to the table, Tarantino was scraping by with almost nothing. He couldn't afford a proper wardrobe department, so he asked the cast to bring in their own black clothing. Steve Buscemi showed up in his personal black jeans instead of suit pants. Michael Madsen wore a jacket and trousers from 2 completely different suits. Chris Penn's bright track jacket? That was his too, and the fans recognized it because he'd worn it in public before. Eventually, a designer who loved crime films donated the iconic black suits for free, but even then, there weren't enough to go around. The result was a ragtag crew that somehow looked perfectly dangerous, proof that limitations can fuel style. And we're only halfway through. The next few facts prove Reservoir Dogs was even more chaotic behind the camera than on screen. Fact 5. Madonna corrected Tarantino after seeing the film. The opening scene of Reservoir Dogs features one of Tarantino's trademark rants. Mr. Brown's analysis of Madonna's "Like a Virgin." His character insists the song is really about a woman who meets a man so well endowed that it makes her feel like a virgin again. Crude, confident, and completely off base. When Madonna saw the film, she didn't let it slide. During Tarantino's European tour for the film, they crossed paths at a party. She handed him a copy of her newly released album, Erotica, with a handwritten note inside. To Quentin, it's not about dick, it's about love. Madonna. In interviews later, she clarified that the song was about feeling brand new and fresh because of an emotional connection, not a physical one. Tarantino got schooled by the Material Girl herself. Fact 6. Tarantino originally wrote Mr. Pink for himself. When Tarantino penned the script, he had every intention of playing Mr. Pink, the paranoid, non-tipping survivalist who questions everything. It made sense financially too, since casting himself meant one less actor to pay. But when Steve Buscemi walked into auditions, Tarantino told him he'd have to deliver a killer performance to wrestle the role away. Buscemi did exactly that, nailing the character's nervous energy and sharp delivery. So Tarantino gave himself a smaller role, Mr. Brown, who only appears in 3 scenes. But he wasn't about to let go of the "like a virgin" speech entirely. That monologue was originally Mr. Pink's, but Tarantino rewrote it so he could deliver it himself. Even in a smaller part, he made sure his voice was heard. Fact 7. Wes Craven walked out during the torture scene. You'd think a horror legend who made a Nightmare on Elm Street and The Last House on the Left could handle anything, but when Wes Craven attended a screening at the Sitges Horror Film Festival, he walked out during the ear-slicing scene. Tarantino couldn't believe it. 5 people left that screening, including Craven and special effects master Rick Baker. Baker later explained that the violence felt disturbingly real in a way that traditional horror gore doesn't. He told Tarantino to take it as a compliment. The scene worked exactly as intended. And it did. The brilliance wasn't in showing the act, but in cutting away to an empty hallway where the screams continue. The audience's imagination filled in the horror, making it more visceral than any special effect could. Fact 8. Mr. Blue was a real bank robber. Eddie Bunker, who played the ill-fated Mr. Blue, wasn't acting when it came to understanding criminal life. He lived it. By age 17, he was the youngest inmate at San Quentin's state prison. Over the years, he robbed banks, forged checks, and ran drug operations before eventually going straight and becoming a respected crime novelist. His transition from career criminal to author and actor gave him a unique perspective. In interviews, he criticized Reservoir Dogs for being unrealistic. No professional crew would pull a job with 5 strangers, and they certainly wouldn't meet for breakfast in public right before a heist. He had a point, but his presence in the film added an authenticity that no amount of research could replicate. When Mr. Blue talks about the criminal world, it's because Bunker knew it intimately. Fact 9. James Woods' agent cost him a role. Tarantino wanted James Woods in Reservoir Dogs badly enough to make 5 separate offers, but Woods' agent rejected every single one without ever mentioning them to his client. The agent assumed the pay was too low and didn't think the project was worth Woods' time. Years later, after the film became a cult sensation and Tarantino was recognized as a major director, Woods ran into him at a party. During their conversation, Woods learned about the offers he'd never heard of. He was furious, not necessarily about missing the role, but about his agent making that decision without consulting him. Woods fired the agent immediately. To this day, Tarantino has never revealed which role he wanted Woods to play, though many speculate it was Mr. Orange. Fact 10. Lawrence Tierney was fired mid-production. Playing mob boss Joe Cabot, Lawrence Tierney was supposed to bring gravitas to the role. Instead, he brought chaos. Notorious for his hard-drinking lifestyle, Tierney made filming a nightmare. He fought with Michael Madsen, constantly flubbed his lines, and complained endlessly about the heat in the warehouse. After 3 days, Tarantino reached his breaking point and fired him. That night, Tierney went on a bender and fired a .357 Magnum into the walls of his Hollywood apartment. He spent the weekend in jail only to be bailed out Monday morning so filming could continue. Tarantino and producer Lawrence Bender didn't find out about the shooting until the production was nearly finished. Somehow, Tierney calmed down after being rehired and managed to complete his scenes. But those first few days were absolute hell. Fact 11. Tim Roth was literally glued to the floor. As Mr. Orange, Tim Roth spends most of the movie bleeding out on the warehouse floor. The fake blood, a mixture of syrup and food coloring, looked great on camera, but it created a serious problem between takes. Filming took place during a sweltering July and August, and the heat caused the blood to dry and harden around Roth. By the time they called cut, he was physically stuck to the concrete. Crew members had to carefully peel him up, scraping away the sticky residue from his clothes and skin every single time. A paramedic was kept on set to ensure the blood loss remained consistent and realistic for a gunshot victim. For Roth, who was making his American film debut after working primarily in British productions, the discomfort was worth it. The role put him on the map and launched a career that would include multiple collaborations with Tarantino. Fact 12. The title's origin is still a mystery. Ask Tarantino where he got the name Reservoir Dogs, and you'll get a different answer every time. One version of the story involves him visiting a production company and seeing a pile of rejected scripts labeled Reservoir Dogs, all of them fighting for attention like dogs trapped in a reservoir. Another version claims that while working at a video store, he recommended the French film Au revoir les enfants to a customer who mockingly replied, "I don't want to see any reservoir dogs." Tarantino liked the phrase and kept it. The truth? Nobody really knows. He's never given a definitive explanation, and at this point, the mystery is part of the film's legend. What's certain is the title stuck in people's minds, strange, memorable, and impossible to forget. Reservoir Dogs didn't just launch a filmmaker, it proved that raw talent and vision could outshine big budgets and studio backing. Tarantino took a mortuary, a handful of actors willing to take a chance, and a script written in less than a month, and turned it into a movement. 3 decades later, the film still crackles with dangerous energy. Every line of dialogue, every long take, every drop of fake blood feels alive. It's the kind of movie that reminds you why people fall in love with filmmaking, because when it's done right, it burns itself into your memory. Which of these facts surprised you the most? Drop your favorite one in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the movies that changed cinema forever. Thanks for watching.